So there was this query in example number 3 that we did yesterday with reference to the IPCP calculation. We had done multiplied by 3 by 2 there, because the example was what? That the sales by consignee were of rupees 16,50,000, which was 10% above IP. And consignee could sell 2/3 of the goods received by him. Agar suppose, and 10% goods were still in transit. I'll just put up the screen in front of you, just observe it. I hope with that it will be more clear for you. Observe it. अरे यार तुम लोगों को ना मैं I'll seriously stop the lecture if at all this kind of thing happens again. ये मेरा बोर्ड है, इस पे तुमको ड्राइंग करने का कोई हक नहीं है. Observe it. Suppose 100 goods were sent. Out of this, 10% are in transit. Received by consignees 90%. 90% का 2/3 is sold. Value of which is whatever is received, 90% received, uska 2/3 is sold, the value of which is 16,50,000. This is value of sales. Am I right? Now I'm not going into that 60% calculation. I can do with that also. There is no problem. But instead of that, I'm just trying to tell you that what I did yesterday. Right? ये तरीके से भी कर सकते हैं. This is nothing but 60% of total. Yes or no? What was asked to us? What is the cost of goods sent? Correct. So what I do is IP of goods sold will be equal to 16,50,000 divide by 110 into 100. That came to 15 lakh. But this 15 lakh is the value of 2/3 of this total or not? तो अगर 2/3 की वैल्यू 15 लाख रुपए है तो टोटल रिसीव्ड की वैल्यू कितनी होगी? Did you understand what I did? Whomsoever had that question, Abhishek and who else was there? ए 2750 किधर से आएगा रे पार्थ? तू ना मतलब कहां से लेके आया भाई 2750? इट इज 22,50,000. कैलकुलेशन भी ठीक से नहीं कर रहे हो तुम लोग. Received is 1. Sold is 2/3. 2/3 का वैल्यू is 15 lakh. तो received का वैल्यू कितना? Did you understand it now? And that comes to 22,50,000. Correct? समझ आया जिसको भी डाउट था? If anyone still has any kind of question in that, Now observe the things further. इसी को मैं डायरेक्टली सॉल्व कर सकता था. कैसे? IP of goods sold 15 lakh, that is 60% of total. So what will be IP of goods sent? अगर मुझे डायरेक्टली सॉल्व करना है तो, क्योंकि डायरेक्टली सेंट पूछा था इसलिए मैं कह रहा हूं, which is 100%. So that comes to 25 lakh. Direct answer. Are you able to observe this? And then based on that, cost of goods sent will be equal to 25 lakh. कितना था वो रेशो? Divide by 125 into 100. That comes to 20 lakh rupees. Did you get it? मनीषा, फिफ्थ वाले में क्या सिचुएशन है तेरे को? फिफ्थ किस चीज का? कमीशन का? अरे यहां पर ऑलवेज रिमेंबर, whenever you are given a situation with reference to calculation of commission, you are not supposed to think from the perspective of only कि ये कमीशन कैसे कैलकुलेट करेंगे. You read the statement and solve it accordingly. What is given for the special commission? It is 1/5. So I did 1/5 of sales. I considered sales less all commission. All commission means normal as well as special commission or not. So I considered normal as well as special commission. Exceeding invoice value. Invoice value of what? Invoice value of goods sold. I framed the equation and solved it. You are supposed to do it in the same way. Formulate the equation based on the statement. Do not try to jump over what you have already observed. एक छोटा सा क्वेश्चन लिखो आज. Let's see if you can solve it. And then I'll come to the calculations with reference to the stock. Which answer you want to see, beta? Shubham? The earlier method or current method?
Sir, this one, this method.
Observe it. Here is the answer. Did you check it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Write down the next one. A consignor had sent 10,000 units costing rupees 240 each. A consignor had sent 10,000 units costing rupees 240 each to the consignee to be sold at the invoice price of the value which is inclusive of loading at 20% of invoice price. Loading at 20% of invoice price. Right? Loading at 20% of invoice price. Full stop. Shall I go ahead? 1/5 of the goods, 1/5 of the goods were still in transit. 1/5 of the goods were still in transit and the consignee sold 3,000 units at rupees 350 each and of the remaining 80% of the goods were sold. Of the remaining 80% of the goods were sold at rupees 320 each. At rupees 320 each. Full stop. The consignee's commission was agreed to be rupees 15 per unit, and rupees 15 नहीं rupees 10 per unit. Don't write as 15, write it as 10 per unit. And 1/6 of 1/6 of sales less normal commission, sales less normal commission exceeding the value of rupees 305 per unit, exceeding the value of rupees 305 per unit. Full stop. Calculate the cost of goods sold by consignee, its invoice value, comma, and the consignee's commission. Cost of goods sold by consignee, its invoice value, and the consignee's commission. That's it. Do it now. It's a very good question, actually. The last part of commission calculation. Try solving it. I give you 7 minutes for this. That is too much, but I still give you. 3 minutes remaining. जिसका जिसका कंप्लीट हो जाए जस्ट रेज हैंड. Okay, time's up. No one has finished it. इसका मतलब तुमने क्वेश्चन को ठीक से नहीं पढ़ा और उसके शब्दों के माया जाल में फंस गए. Okay, I'll give you 2 grace minutes. चलो. Which is not expected to be given, but still I give you. तुम भी क्या याद रखोगे, मनीष तरडेजा से पाला पड़ा था. I don't want the answers to be given. You just raise hands. जिसका भी हो जाए. Complete all aspects. COGS, invoice value of goods sold, as well as the commission calculation. Shall I? Four of them out of the total class are able to raise the hands. उसमें भी कितने करेक्ट हैं वो हमको पता चलेगा. 7 of them. See, do not feel shy, but I'll tell you one thing. If you would have read point to point, line to line, you would have got the answer. What you did, you directly tried to go on to the calculations, which is not expected at all. सीधा calculations पे jump over करना is not a good idea. Now do not raise your hands. हो गया, समय खत्म हो गया already. Why? I have seen people, they try to jump over the answers कि मेरा आंसर आ जाना चाहिए. अरे आंसर आना चाहिए मतलब क्या? जब तक तुम प्रश्न को ठीक से नहीं पढ़ोगे तब तक कैसे आंसर आएगा? Observe it. 10,000 units were sent. Correct? Out of this, 1/5 was in transit. That is 2,000 units. Right? So, received by consignee are 8,000 units. बराबर है? Of this 8,000, 3,000 sold at 350 per unit. बराबर है नहीं? And of the remaining 5,000 units, balance. Of this, 80% sold. Means how many units? 4,000 units. At rupees 320 per unit. Are you able to observe it? Yes or no? So what is your value of sales? Because ये लगने वाला है बाद में. Is 3,000 into 350 plus 4,000 into 320. That is equal to 3,000 into 350 and 4,000 into 320. That is 23,30,000 is the value of sales. बराबर है? Cost of goods sold is 7,000 units. 7,000 कहां से आया? 3,000 और 4,000, टोटल 7,000 यूनिट्स ही बेचे हैं ना? Yes or no? So 7,000 units at the rate of 240 per units, because goods costing rupees 240 each were sent. That is equal to 16,80,000. Some of them got this answer, which is absolutely correct as well. All right. And then IP of goods sold. ये तो सिर्फ सवाल में पूछा है इसलिए हम लोग कैलकुलेट कर रहे हैं. Is equal to 7,000 units into, I am doing the direct calculation, 240 is the cost price, which is equivalent to 80, because loading is 20% of invoice value or not. मैंने यहाँ डायरेक्टली 300 रुपीज भी लिख सकता था मैं, पर जानबूझ के नहीं लिखा ताकि आपको समझ आए कि मैं ये कैलकुलेशन कहां से कर रहा हूं. Did you understand this? Let my invoice price be 100. Loading on that will be 20. So my cost price will be equal to 80. If 80 is equal to 240, what is equal to 100? I did the cross multiplication and presented in front of you. Are you able to see that? Yes or no? ए कैलकुलेशन मत बता भाई मेरे को, तू कंसेप्ट समझाया नहीं वो ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है. कैलकुलेशन मेरे को बहुत अच्छे से आते रहे, मैंने कैलकुलेटर यूज नहीं किया तो भी मेरा 21 लाख रुपए आंसर आता. So that comes to 21 lakh rupees. Do not get stuck with the calculator. Try to focus on the concept. हाँ शाकिब, 16,80,000 का 25% भी आएगा, एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट. पर वो दिमाग एग्जाम में चलना चाहिए या नहीं? तो जो बेसिक सेंस से हम लोग अब तक के सॉल्व करते हैं उसको ही कंटिन्यू करते हैं ना, सो दैट एग्जाम में हमको अलग से कोई दिमाग नहीं लाना पड़ेगा. पहले भगवान ने हमको कम दिया है, सारा तो इधर ही खर्च कर देगा, उधर एग्जाम में क्या यूज करेगा? Did you understand these points? Now, normal commission of consignee is rupees 10 per unit, correct or not? So that will be given on 7,000 units into rupees 10, that comes to 70,000. That will be his normal commission or not? And what is the agreed special commission? Is 1/6. 1/6 है या 1/5 है? हाँ, 1/6 of sales less normal commission as exceeding the value calculated at rupees 305. अब ये इनका कोई आपस का जुगाड़ है. तो अगर आपको एक्सीडिंग वैल्यू ऑफ 305 बोला हुआ है तो आप 305 पे ही फोकस रखोगे ना. बट दैट 305 विथ रेफरेंस टू हाउ मेनी यूनिट्स? Only for the units sold by consignee. Did you get this point? So that will be 7,000 into 305. समझ आया ये इक्वेशन कैलकुलेशन? Yes or no? हाँ. So that comes to what? 1/6 of 23,30,000 minus 70,000, जो कि ऑलरेडी हमने कैलकुलेट करके रखा हुआ है, less 7,000 into 305, that comes to 21,35,000. So that comes to what? Plus 70,000 minus 23,30,000 in divide by 6. 20,833 is my special commission. So what will be my total commission? My total commission in this case will be 70,000 plus 20,833, and that comes to 90,833 as the total commission. Do people get it? Yes or no? मैंने कुछ भी रॉकेट साइंस किया आपके सामने? Have I done anything which was not known to you, which was not told to you? Not at all. But what happens is, if you are not following the point, Rahul, if you read the last part of the question, what does it say, beta? Rahul, can you come online? Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What is the last line, beta, for commission calculation?
1/6 of the sales less normal commission exceeding the value of 305 per unit.
Exceeding the value of 305 per unit.
Right.
मतलब क्या
Yeah.
हुआ कि जितने यूनिट्स तुमने बेचे हैं उसका 305 रुपए के हिसाब से जो कैलकुलेशन आएगा,
Okay.
उसके ऊपर जो तुमने अमाउंट कमाई,
ऊपर. Yes, sir.
उसका तुमको 1/6 मिलेगा.
यस सर. सो सर मेरा डाउट था कि हमने 3000 यूनिट 350 पे बेचे हैं और 4000 यूनिट 320 पे बेचे हैं, तो सर दोनों का कमीशन अलग होगा ना? लाइक एक में
चलो
15 का प्रॉफिट.
ठीक. तेरे तेरे डाउट को क्लियर करने के लिए नॉर्मल कैलकुलेशन करते हैं हम लोग.
ओके सर.
ऑब्जर्व इट. फॉर 3000 यूनिट्स,
यस सर.
ये कब होगा? जब तुम्हारा सेल्स माइनस नॉर्मल कमीशन का वैल्यू 305 से कम होता तब.
यस सर.
बट सेल्स माइनस नॉर्मल कमीशन का वैल्यू तुम्हारा 305 से कम हो ही नहीं रहा है, क्योंकि
यस सर.
320 में जो प्रोडक्ट बेचे उसमें से नॉर्मल कमीशन 10 रुपए माइनस कर दिया तो भी 310 रुपए होता है.
यस सर.
तो वहां पे भी दिक्कत नहीं है.
यस सर.
जस्ट ऑब्जर्व इट. 1/6 ऑफ what is the sales at 350 ना?
यस.
10,50,000 minus 30,000 minus 305 into 3,000, 9,15,000 बराबर.
यस सर.
Minus 10,50,000 divided by 6, so that comes to 17,500 बराबर.
यस
और
सर.
जो 4,000 यूनिट्स बेचे हमने, 4,000 यूनिट्स के केस में क्या आएगा? 1/6 ऑफ 4,000 इंटू 320, दैट इज 12,80,000 माइनस 40,000 माइनस 305 इंटू 4,000, 12,20,000 बराबर.
यस सर.
हाँ. सो 12,20,000 प्लस 40,000 माइनस 12,80,000 डिवाइड बाय 6, मतलब 3,333. The total of these two comes to 20,833. Is it coming same?
यस सर.
ये फर्क कहाँ आता? अगर if at all that was the situation कि जो हमने सेकेंड लॉट बेचा 320 रुपए में, वो 320 रुपए की जगह हमने अगर उसको 310 रुपए में बेचा होता तो गड़बड़ होती. Did you get it?
यस सर.
Yes. Anyone else having any kind of question? Manisha, समझा 20,833 कैसे आया? नहीं. Oh my God. अरे बेटा, the special commission is what? 1/6 of sales less normal commission exceeding the value at 305 or not? 305 कितने यूनिट्स का लेगी तू? जो यूनिट सेल किए सिर्फ उतने का ही लेगी या नहीं? So that's what I've done. If you look at the equation, you'll get the answer. Are you able to understand the equation now? Huh. Yes. Anyone else having any kind of question? Yes, Shubham, go ahead.
Sir, will you please explain that invoice price of goods sold once again? 27,000 into 240.
Hey, Raja. What has been told the loading is?
It's 20%
Of
invoice price.
So let my invoice price be 100, क्योंकि लोडिंग का रिलेशन इनवॉइस प्राइस के साथ दिया हुआ है या नहीं?
हाँ sir.
So let my invoice price be 100. So what will be the loading on that? Shubham?
It'll be 20.
20. So what will be my cost price?
80.
80. If 80 is equal to 240, what is equal to 100?
Oh.
Got it?
Okay, yes, sir. Yes, yes, Sanjay, sir.
No problem. आपने अभी कहा 320 के जगह 310 होता तो गड़बड़, पर सर रीजन, अरे बेटा अभिषेक, what he's been saying कि अगर कमीशन, तुमको जो सरप्लस कमीशन मिलना है वो तब मिलेगा जब तुम 310 रुपए के ऊपर बेचोगे तब, या 305 रुपए के ऊपर बेचोगे तब। अब 310 में अगर बेचा होता, -10 would have come to 300 rupees only or not, because 10 rupees per unit is the normal commission. Abhishek, are you able to understand what I'm saying? Abhishek, come online, beta. Yes, Abhishek.
Hello. Sir.
Now tell me, if I would have sold the units at 310, त्यातलं मला normal commission 10 रुपये द्यायचं होतं. So 10 rupees would go to the normal commission. My balance value after normal commission would have come to only 300 or not. What the condition is, sir, that value is exceeding 305, only then I would be getting the special commission.
Yes, yes.
मग गोंधळ झाला असता की नाही, मग निगेटिव्ह व्हॅल्यू आली असती तिथं.
Yes, yes.
But you cannot take commission from consignee. You have to only give commission to consignee.
Consignee. Yes, yes.
Correct?
Thank you, sir.
Yes, fine. Yes, special commission will be given only if the sales value less normal commission exceeds 305. If it does not exceed 305, then no special commission. Vedika, which part you want to see up? ऐसे ऐसे क्वेश्चंस में तुम्हारे विकेट उड़ते हैं, and that's what you are supposed to understand. क्योंकि क्या होता है ना कि if you are not focusing on the statements right, अरे नहीं प्रसाद, अगर कंसाइनी 305 में गुड्स बेच रहा है तो वो कहां से स्पेशल कमीशन का हकदार होगा बेटा? क्योंकि स्पेशल कमीशन मिलने के लिए ही इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू सेल द गुड्स एट अ बेटर प्राइस और नॉट, above 305 after subtracting special normal commission. All right. Yes, anyone else having any kind of question so that I can go ahead to the calculation of valuation of stock? If consignee sold 6,000 units above 305, then we will not take remaining 1,000 in calculation of special commission. Probably, it depends on the question.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
बोलना.
Sir, sometimes in question they say like commission on gross sales. So can you just explain that part, sir? Like what do they mean by gross sales exactly?
अरे बेटा, ये जो हमने शुरुआत की थी, this consignee's commission is 5% of sales, means what?
Yes.
Of the total sales value.
Okay, so total sales will be like considered as gross sales only.
Correct.
Okay, fine, sir.
सम्यक तूने अभी तक नहीं लिखा ये? मैं इतने देर से तुम्हारे सामने स्क्रीन क्यों रखी हुई थी मैंने? Shall I come ahead? Okay. Let us come to the next concept now in the consignment. That is valuation of stock. Now, what happens is whenever the consignor sends the goods to consignee, in these cases, he is not only incurring the cost price of the goods, but he also incurs the expenses. Expenses on account of transport, expenses on account of packing, expenses on account of freight, expenses on account of transit insurance, and at the same time when the consignee receives the goods, he also incurs certain expenses. He may incur the expenses related to loading, unloading. Now this loading is different as compared to loading, unloading that we talked about. The loading that we have talked about. This loading, unloading is माल को उठाना और फेंकने के लिए जो पैसा लगता है, that is loading, unloading. Then he may also incur the expenses related to freight. अगर suppose freight consignor ने नहीं पे की तो consignee को पे करनी पड़ेगी. But whatsoever expenses that consignee is doing with relation to the consignment is all on behalf of the consignor. The expenses incurred by consignee in relation to the consignment are not related to the consignee's expenses. Those are basically the consignor's expenses only. All right. He may pay cartage. He may pay the inward transport, that is for moving the goods from the transporter to the consignee's place. And he may also incur the expenses related to salaries, rent, electricity, or he may also incur the expenses related to selling and distribution. Right? Now, as far as the expenses which are incurred by consignor, these all expenses incurred by consignor are kind of one-time expenses. And therefore, we call all these expenses as the non-recurring expenses or the product costs. All expenses incurred by consignor related to the goods is what we call as non-recurring or product costs. Why? As per accounting standard 2 valuation of inventory, when we are supposed to value the stock, that has to be valued inclusive of all the non-recurring expenses or the product cost. Of course, on a proportionate basis. तो अब अगर हमको ये कॉस्ट इंक्लूड करनी होगी तो हमको पहले पता करना होगा कि नॉन रिकरिंग क्या है और रिकरिंग क्या है. सो फॉर दैट पर्पस आई एम ट्राइंग टू क्लैरिफाई दिस. Similarly, the expenses which are incurred by consignee towards loading, unloading, freight, cartage, inward transport, these all are also non-recurring or product costs. But the consignee may also incur the expenses related to salaries, rent, electricity, selling and distribution. These all are related to the recurring expenses or selling expenses, and therefore these are also called as the periodic costs. As per accounting standard 2 valuation of inventory, what we are supposed to include is only the product cost and not the period costs. So these proportionate cost on proportionate basis to be included in value of stock or inventory, right? Whereas these being recurring or non-selling expenses not included. I'll just write it here. Not included in inventory value only considered for profit calculation. Correct or not? Why it will only be included considered for profit calculation? क्योंकि profitability जब consignee अपना consignor अपना profitability calculate करेगा उस समय तो you will be needing this information or not. So accordingly it will be included for profit calculation. Am I clear for everyone? Yes or no? So your cost price plus the non-recurring or periodic cost will be the value of inventory. You just write this first and then I'll come ahead with the valuation. How do we do that? We'll come to that, Abhishek. Just a moment. Let everyone write it. Yes, Reyes. While preparing the consignment account, you are not going to debit only the non-recurring expenses. You are going to debit the recurring expenses as well. We'll write that in the point to remember. Just complete this. Also considered for profit calculation. I definitely try to present it in the form of charts and all that, because when it comes in front of you pictorially, it becomes more easier to remember, you know. The retrieval becomes faster in that case. Is it done? लिखो point to remember. Point to remember. While calculating the profit or loss on consignment, while calculating the profit or loss on consignment, both recurring as well as non-recurring expenses, both recurring as well as non-recurring expenses are debited to the profit and loss account. I'm sorry, are debited to consignment account. Are debited to consignment account. Even though for stock valuation, only non-recurring expenses are considered. For stock valuation, only non-recurring expenses are considered. Did you get it? Now observe the case, the valuation of stock. How do we do that? There may be some goods which are in transit, and there may be some goods which are with consignee. Even though the goods are in transit, still that is consignor goods only. And even though the goods are with consignee, those goods also belong to consignor only, even though possessed by the consignee. तो जो कुछ भी वैल्यू होगी will be shown in the balance sheet of consignor only and not in the books of consignee, right? हाँ वो भी लिखो, point to remember में. the value of closing stock, the value of closing stock in transit or with consignee in transit or with consignee will be shown in the books of accounts will be shown in the books of accounts of consignor and not the consignee. Will be shown in the books of consignor and not the consignee. Am I right? Yes or no? So, first of all, you'll be having basic cost. That is number of units. If we are calculating on unit basis, I'll come to the value basis also, into cost price per unit. Similarly, for the goods which are with consignee, the calculation of basic cost will remain same. That is number of units with consignee into cost per unit, cost price per unit. This is in transit. This is with consignee. All right. That will be the basic price. उसके बाद क्या होगा? Consignor's expenses. Why I'm saying only expenses directly? Because all expenses incurred by consignor are the non-recurring expenses. Yes or no? So how will I do that? Expense divide by goods sent. क्योंकि जो कुछ भी खर्च किया होगा ये सारे गुड्स के लिए किया होगा. Into goods in transit. Into units in transit. Correct? Similarly, for goods with consignee, total expense incurred by consignor up on the number of units sent. Units I'll write instead of goods. Units sent. क्योंकि हम लोग यूनिट बेस्ड कैलकुलेशन कर रहे हैं, वैल्यू बेस्ड कैलकुलेशन वाला सिमिलर ही प्रेजेंटेशन होगा, वो मैं अलग से दिखाता हूं. यूनिट्स सेंट इनटू यूनिट्स विथ कंसाइनी. वो सी के ऊपर डैश जो है दैट इज विथ, राइट. सिमिलरली आई नीड टू कंसिडर कंसाइनीज एक्सपेंसेस आल्सो और नॉट. बट कंसाइनी के कौन से एक्सपेंसेस? ओनली नॉन रिकरिंग एक्सपेंसेस. यस और नो? अब जो गुड्स ट्रांजिट में है, मतलब ये हुआ कि ये गुड्स अब तक कंसाइनी को मिले ही नहीं. अब अगर कंसाइनी को ये गुड्स मिले ही नहीं तो उस पे कंसाइनी ने कुछ खर्च किया होगा क्या? नहीं. देयरफॉर ना. For the goods which are in transit, the consignee do not incur any expenses. That's why we do not include consignee's non-recurring expenses on goods in transit. Correct? Whereas for the goods which are with consignee, non-recurring expenses up on units received by consignee, because consignee has not received all the goods. जितने गुड्स मिले हैं सिर्फ उतने के लिए ही कंसाइनी ने ये खर्च किया है. इनटू यूनिट्स विथ कंसाइनी. Did you understand this? And based on that, the total of value will come. Did you get this point right? पहले ये लिख लो. Based on units. Similarly, we are going to do the calculation based on value as well. Akash, I said consignor has incurred all the expenses being the non-recurring expenses or not. Therefore, all the expenses incurred by consignor, I am apportioning on the remaining units as what? Total expenses of consignor divide by units sent by him into the units remaining or units in transit. Did you get it? What is the difference between goods received by consignee and goods with consignee? अरे सौख्यदा, वो जो गुड्स कंसाइनी को मिले थे उसमें से उसने कुछ बेचे थे या नहीं, और बेचने के बाद ही तो कंसाइनी के पास गुड्स बचेंगे ना. सौख्यदा, हाँ, जो हमने अभी अभी एग्जाम्पल किया था, कंसाइनर ने 10,000 गुड्स 10,000 यूनिट्स भेजे, में से कंसाइनी को मिले सिर्फ 8,000, उसमें से उसने 7,000 बेच दिए, तो उसके पास बचे कितने? 1,000. We are doing the valuation of that 1,000 and those goods in transit of 2,000. I hope you understood it. शिवम, तेरे को कुछ क्वेश्चन है बेटा? हाथ ऊपर रखा हुआ है, थक जाएगा. देगा देगा, कल्पेश रुक जा जरा. Okay. Let's observe it now. If the valuation has to be done based on value, कि जब आपको डायरेक्ट गुड्स ऑफ 10 लाख रुपीज आर सेंट वगैरह वगैरह दिया होता है तो क्या करना है? Observe it. Again, in that also you'll be having goods in transit, goods with consignee. Basic cost. Will be what? Cost price of all goods into percentage in transit. Right? Similarly, cost price of all goods into percentage with consignee. With consignee. That's how we do the calculation. Again, will be required to include consignor's expenses. How will we include the consignor expenses? Consignor expense up on goods sent into goods in transit. क्योंकि ऊपर से आपको कितने के गुड्स कंसाइनर के कितने के गुड्स ट्रांजिट में है ये तो पता चल गया ना ऑलरेडी. सो बेस्ड ऑन दैट यू कैन डू दिस प्रोपोर्शनेट कैलकुलेशन. मतलब ये कि 10 लाख के गुड्स भेजे, मान लो 1.5 लाख के गुड्स ट्रांजिट में है, तो 10 लाख के लिए अगर 25,000 रुपए का खर्च तो 1,500 के लिए कितना? क्रॉस मल्टीप्लिकेशन इज व्हाट आई एम राइटिंग इन हियर. आर यू एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? And similarly, for goods with consignee, it will be consignor expense up on goods sent, the total value of it, into goods with consignee. करेक्ट. फर्क सिर्फ इतना है, पहले यूनिट्स से हम लोग डिवीजन मल्टीप्लिकेशन कर रहे थे, अब हम लोग वैल्यू से डिवीजन मल्टीप्लिकेशन कर रहे हैं. जस्ट फॉर द सेक ऑफ इट आई एम प्रेजेंटिंग इट इन फ्रंट ऑफ यू. ये नहीं भी किया होता तो भी तुमको समझ आना चाहिए था. कंसाइनीज non-recurring expenses, as far as the goods in transit is concerned, there is no question of it. But for the goods which are with the consignee, consignee expense up on goods received into goods with consignee. Goods with consignee मतलब closing stock with consignee. Yes or no? And the total will be the value of it. Write it fast. Super fast writing has to be there. Is it done? Okay, let's try to understand this with the example now. Suppose consignor sends 10,000 units with cost price of 150 and invoice price of rupees 200 each. Consignor's expense is say 50,000. Consignee sold 8,000 units for rupees 250 per unit. Consignee's commission, I am writing the short form just for the sake of writing it fast. You are not expected to write the short forms in the examination. Is 5% of sales, 5% of gross sales, and 1/5 of or 1/4 of gross sales less all commission exceeding cost, sorry, exceeding invoice value, right? This is what is the question. We have to do the calculation of commission and value of stock with consignee, where consignees expenses are non-recurring 25,000 and recurring 20,000. That's it. This is the information given to us. All right. Now, in this case, if we are supposed to do the calculation of commission calculation is quite simpler in this. Why? I'll tell you. My normal commission is 5% of 250 into 8,000 units. Correct? So 250 into 8,000 into 5%, that comes to 1 lakh rupees. Correct? Whereas my special commission is 1/4 of 20 lakh, that is sales, less normal commission, that is 1 lakh. Sales less all commission is what they have said. So 20 lakh minus 1 lakh normal commission minus special commission is what we have not yet calculated, less the invoice value. Invoice value is what? 200 per unit into 8,000 units sold. That is 16 lakh. Yes or no? So my 4 special commission is equal to 3 lakh minus special commission. 3 lakh कैसे आया? 12 lakh, sorry, 20 lakh minus 1 lakh minus 16 lakh. That comes to 3 lakh. Correct? Or 5 special commission is equal to 3 lakh. Therefore, special commission is equal to 60,000. So my total commission becomes what? 1 lakh plus 60,000. That is equal to 1,60,000 rupees. ये calculation तो आप सबको समझ आया होगा, because that is becoming normal and used to do that now. Yes or no? Huh. Now consignor had sent how many units? 10,000. Consignee sold how many units? 8,000. So what is balance with consignee? Balance with consignee is 2,000 units or not? So we have to do the valuation of this 2,000 units only or not? कितना units भेजा, कितना units बेचा और कितना units बचा? We need to do the valuation of बचा. Correct? So bacha is 2,000. So we need to do the valuation of that 2,000 units only. Basic cost. In fact, I can do the valuation of stock at cost or at IP as well. We'll do both for the sake of understanding. अगर मैं cost price पे valuation कर रहा हूं, तो what will the cost price be? 2,000 units into 150, that is 3 lakh rupees. But if I'm doing the valuation at invoice price, that will be 2,000 units into 200 per unit, that is 4 lakh rupees. But please understand, if you have done the valuation of closing stock at invoice price, then in that case, the loading on the closing stock will be reversed in the form of stock reserve or inventory reserve. Inventory reserve is basically the difference between the cost price and invoice price of the closing stock. Am I right? Consignor expenses. अब कंसाइनर ने टोटल 50,000 रुपए का खर्च किया था फॉर ऑल 10,000 यूनिट्स, में से 2,000 यूनिट बचे हुए हैं. Yes or no? That comes to 10,000 rupees as consignor's expenses. Even if I am doing the valuation of stock at invoice price, the valuation does not affect the expenses. The expenses will be included in the valuation of stock at invoice price as it is. That is at 10,000 only. क्योंकि मैं इनवॉइस प्राइस पे वैल्यूएशन कर रहा हूं, तो मैं एक्सपेंसेस पे लोडिंग लगाना चाहिए. ऐसा नहीं है. लोडिंग इज लेवीड ओनली एंड ओनली ऑन कॉस्ट प्राइस. राइट डाउन द हेडिंग. द पॉइंट टू रिमेंबर, लोडिंग इज एडेड only on cost price. Loading is added only on cost price and not on other expenses. And not on other expenses. Am I right? Similarly, we need to consider the consignees expenses also. क्योंकि कंसाइनी को सारे गुड्स मिल गए थे, तो he must have incurred the expenses on all the goods sold by him or not, or all the goods received by him or not. So 25,000. Why I'm not considering 45,000? Because out of 45,000, 20,000 is a recurring expense. What we include in the value of stock is only the non-recurring expense. So 25,000 divided by 10,000 units into 2,000 units, that comes to 5,000 rupees. Even if I'm doing the valuation of inventory at invoice price, then also the calculation remains same. So what will be the value of my stock? If I'm doing the valuation of stock at cost price, that comes to 3,15,000. If I do the valuation of stock at invoice price, that comes to 4,15,000. What's the difference then? Difference is inventory reserve. That is 1 lakh rupees. अगर मैं अकाउंटिंग करते समय 4,15,000 रुपए से अकाउंटिंग करता हूं, then in that case that 1 lakh rupees will be reversed on the debit side of consignment account in the form of inventory reserves. Am I clear for everyone? In fact, I can prove this is correct. I said inventory reserve. Inventory reserve is loading on closing inventory. Just a moment. Yes, stock is mostly valued on cost only. I'll take your questions. Let me explain the concept first and then I'll come to your questions. Rahul, Shubham, just a moment. In the instant case, loading is nothing but IP minus CP or not. IP of the goods given to us is 200. Cost price of the goods given to us is 50. I'm sorry, 150. So loading per unit is rupees 50. How many units are remaining with us? 2,000. Therefore, loading, or I will say inventory reserve. Inventory reserve will be equal to 2,000 units into rupees 50 per unit. That is equal to 1 lakh rupees or not. So if I have done the valuation of inventory at invoice price, I can directly calculate the inventory reserve as well. Did you get that point? Now Shubham has a question, but stock is mostly calculated on cost, right? This is only when loading is given. Mind well, Shubham. Whenever you are given the information with reference to the invoice value of goods, it is quite prudent and logical to do the closing stock valuation also at invoice price. And in such situation, you will be required to reverse the loading thereon in the form of inventory reserve. Did you get that? हाँ, अगर इनवॉइस प्राइस से रिलेटेड तुम्हारे पास इंफॉर्मेशन ही नहीं है, then you can do the valuation of closing stock also at cost only. Yes, Rahul, here is the question in front of you. You need to write it. And write it fast, please, because we have to keep going ahead. I'll be taking the lecture only up till 11:30 today. I took whole, then found out price per unit, then multiply by 2000. That's either which way. Why to do the larger calculations when you are able to do the simpler calculations? Isn't it? जहां जहां हम लोग कैलकुलेशंस बचा सकते हैं वहां वहां कैलकुलेशंस कम करने चाहिए. And that you'll be able to learn over the period of time when you're practicing more and more problems. Scrolling beta, sabka saath, sabka vikas. We need to be together, isn't it? Shubham, Nevare, Nevase. I hope you all have been writing it. एक 5 मिनिटात कॉल करतो. Is it done? In fact, we shall stop by here itself. In tomorrow's session, we'll continue with the stock, normal loss and abnormal loss. That's it for the day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.